Hello, Steve 89. Well, I wanted to look at the box office for the weekend. Everyone was on the edge of their seats waiting to see what happened with the Eternals. Now, initially I heard that it made 27.5 million, which is a drop of 61%, but I think some of that was estimates, because apparently Box Office Mojo has it at 26.8 million, which is actually a drop of 62.3%. So it had a big drop off. Some people, the haters were hoping it would fail. The supporters were hoping it would have legs. It doesn't seem to have any legs. So between the Rotten Tomatoes score and all the bad reviews and the bad word of mouth and the marketing, which just doesn't sell the film, I still don't know what it's about. I don't know. It's just all I see is just people standing around in their superhero costumes in the desert, and I still don't know what this film's about. So I don't think it's really going to do well. I think it's going to be Marvel's first sort of big flop, I think. Now Bond did a little differently. It's made 708 million all up, 558 million like internationally, which is more than the last Fast and the Furious film, which basically means it's the biggest film of the pandemic era. Made about 150 domestically. So that's good, but it needed to make 800 to 900 million to actually make money because of the budget. That's insane, but that's Hollywood. They do this. They make these giant billion-dollar blockbuster films that cost $200 or $300 million to make, and then they have to make like 900 to $1 billion to actually make money for them. And they think they can actually sell that because they've got this formula, and they spend all this money on marketing, and they expect that they to make all this money in the short term, and they can just sell people on the films, and then it doesn't matter if they're good or bad or what the word of mouth is, because they just need to get people in for the first couple of weekends around the world and they're done. This isn't really working because you just can't, with the state of the pandemic and the post-pandemic cinema going audience and the cinemas that close and so forth. I think maybe billion-dollar movies are a thing of the past, at least in the short term. Maybe if we can, maybe it can come back to a certain extent when we've fully recovered from the pandemic. It's unclear, but basically, if you don't understand, studios don't get all that money. Of course, they have to take a cut with the theaters. So if you make $500 million, it doesn't mean you actually get $500 million. The studio probably gets half of that. I think most first weekends they get 70% of the box office, which is why they care about the first weekend the most. And then after that, it's like 50% with the theatre owners. But it all depends on the different contracts between the different studios and films and so forth. Disney was really hard with negotiating apparently, but others are not as bad. So you have a film like Bond, which makes $708 million. A lot of people saw it, but it's still a flop because of how much it cost. Now, I personally think we shouldn't care about that. That's the studio's problem. We should just care about, did people see it? Did people like it? That I just think just attendance and box office should be what matters, not profit. That's the studio's problem, like I said. But because now we all know the box office, we all know the numbers, we all act like accountants and we think about these films like business, and it's just really disheartening. But Bond's a hit, but it's not going to make money for the studio. So what does that mean for films in the future? Well, they're going to be a lot smaller. And I'm fine with that. I think this approach to just these giant overblown films which have these giant budgets and giant scenes and they're long and they have to be epic 2 hours and they're just overdone. Just do an hour and a half film with actual characters and actual story that I can relate to and care about. I'll see it. So I think we're going to see a second sort of fall of Hollywood like we had after Cleopatra toppled 20th Century Fox, and then the 70s there was a lot more independent films, and then we had like the film school generation with Spielberg and all those people. I think we're going to have something like that happen, and I think it's a good thing. I think a lot came out of that because the studio system can be pretty dry. It just sort of produces the same thing over and over again. It has quality. It can do a lot of things that small independent films can't do, but it doesn't actually necessarily mean it's good. Now, the other box office stuff for the weekend. Now, Clifford the Big Red Dog made 16 million, 22 million altogether, so that was number 2. So, thank God the Eternals beat Clifford, but, not by much. And, it's not looking good for them. But the other films that did well, what was it? Of course, June made 5.5 million. No Time to Die made 4.5 million. Venom made 3.9 million, and that's sort of all the films that made any money this weekend. Most of the other films made about $1.5 million or less. A lot of films that are not going to do much more, like Halloween, Addams Family, those films, we're just not going to see this kind of box office that we had before. It's just not going to happen. And yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. I was curious where how Eternals was going to go, and it's just a really curious the situation Bond's in and a lot of films are in. And it'll be curious to see what happens with Hollywood in the coming years. It'll be interesting to watch the next 5-10 years, and then look back at that and look back at this era, the post-pandemic Hollywood box office era and everything. That's it. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.